And we are live on Facebook, everybody. Live, live, live. Hey, all right. We are live and in person. Hey, everybody. We are back again today. It is now Tuesday, 24 March, 2020. The apocalypse may or may not be here. We don't know. So Matt and I have been doing this recording here for a few days. And today's guest, I have Lisa Fore. Ray, tell me how you want to say that today, Lisa. How are we going to say your name today?
It's Fore.
Lisa Fore. That's what I thought. Everyone keeps saying around the NARCM circle, Lisa Fore. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right.
Brad's used to saying that.
Well, technically, my maiden name's Mon, so
okay.
Go that way. If you talk to my best friend, it's never been Fore.
Well, knowing that you are a big snowboarder, it might be just Lisa Badass. Can we just call you that?
There you go. There you go. Nobody's ever called me that.
No one, you never deserved to be called that, Matt. You never deserved.
Don't worry, until I went heliboarding, nobody did that either.
Whoa, wow.
Ooh, whoa. Time out. All right, we're quickly descending into feeling inferior to Lisa.
It's a different podcast. Yeah, let's stick to the subject.
So, gang, what we want to talk about today is Tuesday, 24th of March. We're going to give the updates. We have some current news. We've got Lisa on here. Lisa is part of a big organization on the West Coast in San Diego, family-owned, family-run business, property management business of short-term rentals and long-term rentals. So she's going to be able to give us some perspective of what's going on in the short-term rental world. Lisa, can you give us a minute or so to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Lisa, as I said, Fore. I'm in actually Carlsbad, which is a suburb of San Diego County. And we're up in North County, and I've been doing this for about 23 years as they say that I actually do not only long-term, but I do short-term as well. We manage about 100 vacation rentals in addition to our unfurnished inventory, and I also do sales. So we do sales so I've kind of got a visual on what's going on in all three worlds. And it's definitely the vacation rental world has been rocked a bit more out of all of it so far. And but I think everybody's going to be touched by this for sure.
In the green room, you mentioned a figure. So give us kind of a rundown of what's going on in the short-term rental world, because a lot of us, as we were starting to get into this, a lot of us were starting to venture into the short-term rental world. I mean, a lot of us seeing that you hear, for example, other property managers, they've been short-term rentals forever and ever, and now this whole phenomenon of the short-term rental starting to become more apparent. So they're starting to venture more into that, kind of like the association thing. But you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, in that region. So tell us kind of what's going on in that world.
Well, when everything started kind of spurring, all the news started breaking and everything, and especially with California being one of the 3 states that are kind of hardest hit so far, we actually in 1 week's time saw $510,000 worth of rental reservations canceled. And obviously coming up to our busy season where it's, where the bulk of our money is made, it's going to be interesting to see how fast we get through this. But if it breaks through the summer season, it's going to break a lot of companies actually that aren't even broken so far. I mean, they're not going to survive this.
And how far out does that represent? I mean, how far out are people starting to cancel reservations?
Well, actually, I was on a Vermintel webinar actually 2 hours before this, and there was a lot of there's people from Florida, from California, and there's some people on there that are thinking that this very well could carry through June, if not July, and if that happens, it's going to be pretty hard hit to this industry. But at the same time, I'm also seeing I'm also seeing articles of people that are, gearing up to really take an investment into this industry. I'm ready to buy companies at a discount and stock in the short-term rental market. So there's, like I said, we were talking about this right before, the stock market. There's opportunities that are going to come from this, and people will be out there taking advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, so let's think about this. So what happens if a short-term rental owner can't rent out as a short-term rental any longer? Are they going to try and switch this up to a long-term rental situation? And where do you think that's going to shift your business? Is it from one portfolio to the next because it's still an owner with a rental property? Are they just going to move it to a different method?
Well, generally when we take on clients, we're really picky, and it's about the return on our investment that we're going to get in that, and determining when we sign on a client, because with the last boom in real estate, I mean, it was one of the biggest upselling features is to, hey, buy a vacation rental. And so everybody wants to do vacation rentals, and the amount of inventory out there, it's an extremely competitive market now. And if you don't have your property updated, you're not being competitive on your pricing and everything, you have this, grand idea model in your head, then you're not going to win in this game. And so there's the people that are really trying to get the max return on their investment when they're purchasing their property. And then there's the owners that are actually just trying to supplement some of the income. And so when we sign them on, we're trying to determine which, side they are on. And it's not to say that we won't sign on somebody that's just trying to supplement income, but we got to kind of know where they're at. So right now, we just unfortunately are making that hard decision on some of those owners that are just trying to supplement income, that we're not going to get that hardcore return on, that we can't focus on in times like this, that we're actually having to cut ties with, and we're canceling those agreements with right now. So because we have unfortunately in this low time of the year is when all of our advertising's re-upping too on these online portals. And so I'm taking $500 a hit on a property. You got 100 properties. It's a lot of revenue going out the door, and so we have to kind of stop the bleeding right now, and that's what we're trying to do. And so we are cutting some of the properties. Some of them have turned to long-term, and some owners that, they're just adamant about, being able to use it. And so if that's the case, they're just going to let them sit vacant. I mean, you may see them, come back in the market, or you may end up seeing them sell. It just depends on, their own individual, ability to carry the property.
And Lisa, I've got a question kind of carrying on what she talked about. What are some other expenses that you've kind of cut to prepare for this kind of season of rental shortages, revenue shortages? What are some other things that you've looked to cut?
Well, right now, as the numbers drastic that I mentioned that we lost in a week's time, knowing that we pretty much lost all of our spring break bookings, and so it's that last bit of revenue that we have in our market share to carry us through this kind of lull until Memorial Day weekend and then the summer hits. So we already kind of expect that usually April and May are the slower time months anyhow, and so we're generally prepared for that. We are prepared for that. However, just not prepared to, have faced this on top of it. So that's the problem. But in that first week, we actually unfortunately had to let our admin go and 2 of our virtual assistants go right off the bat. And we're just kind of monitoring it week by week right now.
Gotcha,
so
Brad.
one of the things I wanted to ask you that, so is there any indication in the short-term rental world for trying to create A to B to C? So in the mortgage world right now, they're talking about bailouts and like furloughs and like payment, like they put the payments off to another day. Is that going to be the same in the short-term rental world? Because a lot of these short-term rentals are like second home vacation type. Are the lenders going to say, nope, that's a fun home for you. You're not a reluctant landlord. You're a short-term rental person. You're taking advantage of this whole, vacation rental property stuff. Do you see any of that? Because what I'm trying to go with is they may not have the resources or get the air quote bailout that long-term rental properties might, because it's a necessity. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Matt, back me up. I'll explain this as I'm going here. But do you see any difference in the government coming out and saying, well, that short-term rental is not a necessity for housing to keep the economy rolling?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm starting to see a lot more on the multifamily and commercial side of things than I'm even seeing on the residential side of things. I hate to put a damper on a lot of what the members of NARFM are. They're single family residents, but a lot of the push I'm seeing, I'm seeing some push, but a lot of the things that I'm seeing coming out within articles is really geared towards multifamily commercial, which had me on one of my text threads with like 12 other brokers questioning, hey, where's the single family relief on this? Do you see anything coming? And it's going to be really questionable whether or not even our unfurnished long-term owners are going to have some relief in this game. But I don't think on a mortgage side or any other relief package that's put out there, if the vacation rental side of things is going to be treated any different than an unfurnished rental. And I say that because at the end of the day, it's an investment property. And so unless they're using it as a second home and they come up with something that says that, hey, prove that this is truly an investment property and it's not a second home, unless they put some guidelines in there that might cap some people out because they're utilizing it more than 2 weeks a year, then you'll see some problems in that respect. But I know, and like I said, the Verm Intel webinar I was on today, some of the stuff that was being talked about in there is a lot of the people on the East Coast that usually deal with the hurricane situations. And so they're saying that this is way worse in their eyes, you know, and the stress level, not understanding, you know, obviously, at least you kind of had an end date, what, you know, what to expect. We're here. It's the unknown. But, you know, with that regard, you know, with hurricanes, they've, you know, advised their clients in the past, and it's worked for them to get with their insurance companies, because a lot of times they have lost revenue policies in there. And so, you know, filing those claims right away and seeing if you can, you know, get some of your insurance policy to.
I can see some insurance companies under really quick when they start seeing, you know, millions in claims. Boy, they're going to be declaring bankruptcy and be gone. So it makes you worry about the whole system cracking.
Yeah.
You know,
the disruption in business policy, everybody's kind of trying to go at that, but it really, I mean, like my rep said, it's really only for destruction of your business with your building. And so you're not going to get relief there either. And they're like the Intel call I was on today too. It was talking about a guy that actually said he gave up on that policy a long time ago. He thinks it's such a scam and a game because he actually was put in that position. One of the girls actually was saying on her vacation rental properties that they had, from a hurricane, destruction of a ton of their buildings. Some of their properties were out for an entire year because they were destroyed. And they weren't able to collect on that because they didn't have those properties added as additional insured. So she now changed her policy in that, but now they're all kind of rethinking this entire insurance game, because he said that he's tried to claim on, and he actually had been in a position where he was able to place a claim, and the hoops that he had to jump through, the goal line just kept getting further and further pushed apart, and the things that he had to come up with, he said it was just absurd. It was nearly impossible to collect on that insurance policy.
Yeah,
that goes some play-by-play.
Yeah, no, that was my experience too. I mean, my attorney said the same thing. You know, you're not going to be able to collect insurance money. Going back to the mortgage, I agree with Lisa wholeheartedly. I don't think you can carve out certain mortgages. I think the mortgage companies are going to, number one, listen to what the government tells them to do. But number two, they've already experienced you know, literally 12 years ago, we experienced kind of a massive loss, and they're going to basically do what's in their best interest. And I think this is such a short-term cash flow problem. This isn't like the Great Recession of 07, 08, 09. This is a short-term cash flow problem, and if they can help figure out how to do that and defer payments, put them on the back end of loans, maybe pay interest only instead of your principal. I think if you own rental property, I think now's the time to reach out to your mortgage company and see, you know, again, like we said yesterday, what can you do for me? And mortgage companies are already coming up with, they know that this is coming, so they're already coming up with processes. You may make a phone call, spend 5 minutes on the phone, and get, you know, 3 months of deferred payments, which is totally worth a phone call.
So Matt, give us an update.
I've got friends in the lending world too, because like I said, I'm very much involved in sales as well. And they are saying, you know, a week ago, even the mortgage companies were already rolling out programs and they've got stuff in place, but do read the fine print and understanding, you know, what that means. And because at the end of the day, just like rent, I mean, your rent is going to be due, and it's just about, you know, are you deferring it for 3 months, and on that fourth month, and that's what they're seeing in some of these, that fourth month, it's all going to come due, and you have a balloon payment of it. And so just knowing what you're signing off on and getting those details actually before you sign off is imperative.
So Matt, give us some play-by-play going on with the, what are you seeing in the world? We SBA to kind of update. We got the stock market going crazy again today.
Yeah, the stock market went crazy today because they are sure that the Senate, that Congress is going to pass this bailout plan. We talked about Sunday, we thought that was going to happen. Monday, we thought it was going to happen, but it sounds like the stock market is sure that's going to happen today. It seems like, I mean, I don't want to get political, but everybody's trying to throw things in this thing at the last minute, which is pretty frustrating. I think if somebody would read, I urge you to go read some independent thought on some of the last minute things that are getting thrown into this bailout plan. It's just very, very disappointing. And it's not just one side of the aisle. It's probably both. The second thing is
disappointing is not the word. I mean, it's maddening. Yeah. It's infuriating to see some of the they're throwing in and taking advantage of this crisis. And it's both sides. Okay. It's both sides. And again, Matt, I've read some highlights on that. You start seeing, you know, stuff in there for pink pig wings for $10 billion. And it's both sides. Okay. It's both sides. And again, Matt, I've read some highlights on that. You start seeing, you know, stuff in there for pink pig wings for $10 billion. And it's both sides. Right. I mean, you're talking about some craziness, and they're talking, large figures, 8 figures, 20 million for something that is just completely irrelevant to any of what's going on right now.
Right.
And it's politicians pandering to their base, going out and saying, look how much money I got you, reelect me. Which,
and they may
let me finish a point on a political soapbox rant. A lot of this will be fixed with term limits and a balanced budget amendment. So if the feds had to have a balanced budget, no matter what, like the states do, a lot of states have this, and if there were term limits on all of our senators and congressmen, this would cure a lot of that crap. But that's 2 big things that may or may not ever happen in our lifetime with our federal government. So getting off a little soapbox, I'll let you guys have it.
No, it's infuriating. Don't let me go down the political rant for sure, but I mean, it's infuriating. There's not a single business out there that can drive their company into the ground the way a local jurisdiction or state or the government can, with pension funds and things of that sort. I mean, no other business it can run their company that way. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it gets put back on us, and it's really frustrating.
And now that we're railing about the feds, Matt, now give us the SBA update.
Yeah, we'll talk about SBA. So yesterday, as you'll recall, I tried to start our SBA loan process. The website kept crashing. It was crashing on both Chrome and Internet Explorer and Safari. Today, it is just crashing on Chrome. There's your government for you. The website doesn't even work with kind of standard, operating systems. But point being is we are starting to work our way through the process. Now, I suggest that everybody at least start this process and work their way through it, just because you never know if you're going to need the money. I mean, there's the future's unknown. Lisa made a great point. Hey, we don't know what's going to happen. That's what's so scary. I mean, if we had a tornado blow through here or a hurricane blow through, then we kind of know there's a definite start and a definite end to it. Right now, we just don't even know. Like the feds haven't even, as we're speaking right now, have not passed any sort of legislation to help us out. So, but go ahead and start this process. Now, 2 of us have been working on it. Like literally I would hit send and then I'd go work on something else because it took forever. Like it's almost like dial up. It took forever for it to get to the next page. So I would spend 30 or 45 seconds checking email and then I would come back to it. So it is very frustrating to do it, but listen, the future of your business could be at stake. So what I say is grab a bottle of wine, put on some good music, and expect to spend a whole day. Now, you're going to need some really important things like financial statements. You're going to need personal financial statements. They're going to ask you for everything. And don't just think that it's for your company. So if you have other companies, like I've got interest in 3 or 4 different companies, they're going to also probably ask for that information as well. So they're going to take a holistic view of your whole financial picture. So very important that you have access to all that information before you get started. We're
hoping too, some of the stimulus package they're talking about, this bailout relief we're talking about, might streamline that. Because if they can basically dump the, $500 million, $500 million into the SBA type system to bail out the commercial industry, the commercial lending industry, which is going to take a serious hit because business owners like ourselves, we might be looking at our expenses to say, well, we may not need to be, forget us. Look at the Kohl's, look at the Wendy's and look at the McDonald's. All of them, are they going to be paying their leasing? The strip malls and it goes on and on. It's as scary as all get out.
I actually sat on a call last week. Have you heard of BizNow? BizNow actually did a call last week, and it was all in the commercial side of real estate, and both from multifamily to just, obviously commercial buildings as well. And everybody is really vying just to work it out with the tenant, because at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot. They're projecting at least a 20% unemployment rate when we're all done. So the layoffs that you're seeing, it's 20 to 30 is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I've heard 30, which is scary.
I was trying to be optimistic, but it is scary. And so, but I think the biggest part isn't even so much the in term of them not paying. It's, I think you're going to see a huge shift, because you're seeing a lot of businesses that have gone mobile that they weren't doing before. And it's really made people rethink what they're doing. And it's really, I think you're going to see a lot of exits out of the commercial side of things, and a lot of people starting to now go mobile and having their, employees work from home, because now they're pushed to do this and they can see that, hey, this works. Yeah. And so, why am I paying $3,000 for $5,000, whatever they're paying a month? That's one of the first things that's probably going to be looked at. It, besides the fact that, they owe money now, it's long-term projections of what they can cut costs on.
I totally agree. I mean, it's basically an aha moment for a lot of business owners right now. Yeah. And, if I was in the commercial real estate business, I'd be, especially office space, I'd be pretty nervous. Getting into tenants paying rent. So if you'll recall, Brad, I've started this kind of small reaching out process. I'm running I reached out to 60 residents last night with this kind of email and kind of this empathetic video that we shot, trying to get out ahead of who's going to pay and who's not going to pay. Because if 20% of our residents lose their job, I mean, does that mean they're not going to pay? Do I need to be prepared to only collect 20% of my management fees, or 80% of my management fees, or 70% of my management fees? So there is some good news. Now, these are our best residents because we only reached out to the ones with zero balances. So we reached out to 60, and out of that 60, only one of them so far has reached back to us in 24 hours saying they lost their job. Now, right before I came on, I reached out to another 180. Again, all with zero balances. So we're just kind of slowly going through the process, and then I think we're gonna turn it loose. But one of the things we're gonna require of people is that they essentially prove their hardship. I don't want it just to be, hey, some sort of flippant, yeah, I lost my job. What we really want is to be able to help the people that actually do have a problem. And so we're requiring them to fill out a release of information and also get their former employer or their current employer that maybe furloughed them to fill out a piece of that. And we're going to follow up with them just to make sure that everything's kosher on the email, on that document, and to make sure that they really do have a hardship, because we want to help the good people. We don't want people just to basically use this as an excuse to not pay rent.
I want to counter some of that information you put out, because we're seeing the Drudge Report stuff, the doom and gloom headlines of 20 to 30% unemployment. I saw a very good presentation from RealPage, and they're looking at the entire multifamily industry, and they have all these smart people that work for them. They looked at 08 and 09, and they saw about 9 million unemployment claims at a certain time frame. They're projecting only about 2 million through this whole mess.
What?
And maybe that's a little bit optimistic on their side, but I think that's their collection source is a pretty solid one. Again, the headlines we're seeing might be from sources that like the doom and gloom. Okay, am I making somewhat of a point there? But because they're trying to perpetuate this whole misery thing.
Oh no, I get it. The mainstream media for sure. And at the end of the day, and that's the struggle I'm having, is cutting costs where I can, but not getting too far ahead of this and cutting people based off of fear of the unknown and how long. It's about how long can I really survive, maybe holding people that aren't truly maybe contributing as much as they could be at this moment, trying to keep them busy in some respect or another. Because if we do hit summer, then I'm scrambling and I'm behind. So it's try not to be too overstaffed, but not putting myself in a position that I'm going to be hurting myself when things, pick back up.
So what I got to ask you this. Lisa, what is the situation with the unemployment benefits there in California? From what I heard from Scott Brady is they're looking to potentially pay out unemployment benefits at a 2 times rate of what they normally would pay out. So if your salary is $40,000 a year, they're talking about paying most of that, like $36,000 a year for the salaries. What have you heard for the unemployment? Because in where I'm going with this strategically is if you laid off an employee, but that employee is not hurt, air quote, because the unemployment benefits have doubled, meaning they're basically being covered. I mean, that's a potential solution for you as a business owner to go ahead and furlough or lay off staff for 30, 60, 90 days, let them collect unemployment. They're not going to, go under because they're getting 80% of what they were getting before.
Right.
And then when this thing starts to alleviate itself and you just pick right up with business, I mean, is that one of the strategies you're looking at?
Yeah, that is some of the things that even some of the calls I've been sitting on, people are talking about is, determining those, wholehearted, just cut off sorry, we've got to let you go, versus the ones that can be more temporary and see how much you can sustain that. I haven't heard a whole lot, as far as, where they're looking at, other than my attorney said, at this point, if you had to do anything, it is, the time to do it, because the government likely will be picking up a lot of this and it won't hit your personal accounts. And so, that was good to hear, which is weird. Actually, the end of last week and all of this, I got something from ADP that said that my unemployment insurance rate went from like 4.1 to like 2.5 retroactive to like January. And I was like, did this have anything to do with what's going on? I have no idea. It's just weird. Maybe it's weird timing, but I just thought that was interesting that I got that email and all of this. But yeah, it is, there may, I think before we even get to temporary cuts, it may be, it's more of probably a look at, me not collecting, my own pay out of the company and asking and doing so, then, being more comfortable in asking my employees, maybe to take a 25% hit or something like that, to see if we can, how we carry through the next, couple weeks or 30 days, and see how that works before, I have to take the, just, cut off and furlough. Because at the end of the day, there are still there are projects that are in the company that we can look at and get ahead of, the game and getting some things done that need to be done as well.
There was also some legislation that was originally being pushed. I don't know if this is the case, that basically it would benefit us as employers to keep people, and it would almost be like a grant if we were able to keep people throughout this whole process. So it starts out as a loan and converts to a grant. I don't know if that's one of the things that the Democrats were pushing back on, because they said it benefits business. But that seems like keeping people employed, essentially giving them the money through the business, seems like a smart way to do it. But I guess I am a little biased.
There was a tax credit too. Did you see that rolled out, the tax credit for things that you're having to do with your employees and incentive, or not incentives so much.
Yeah, PTO. PTO for
PTO
COVID.
thing,
Yeah. So you can get up to, each employee can get up to 2 weeks of extra PTO that doesn't count against their normal PTO for COVID related illness and taking care of their kids. They haven't really defined exactly what it is yet.
But then you as an employer get a
correct
tax break on it. Yeah.
Dollar for dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to remember exactly how long that was. It was 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. So what I've been telling our teammates is, hey, look, I know you're working from home. A lot of you have kids at home. If you work 5 hours for GK and you work 3 hours, I mean, I can't tell that, but if you don't mind, please fill out this form so that I can get paid, because essentially you're not producing for GK. And if I can get reimbursed for that, boy, that would certainly help me at the end of the year. So we have everybody basically keeping their time, even salaried employees keeping their time on a timesheet right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed feelings going on in the world. And the bottom line is, are the politicians overreacting? And I don't want to be like I'm some weirdo saying that this is all fake, but what choice do the politicians have? I mean, you listen to a lot of the opinions and you hear different things. The politicians are kind of backed into a corner of, if they don't do anything and this blows up in their face, they're all going to get lynched. On the other side of that, are they destroying the economy for a hefty flu virus that really will calm down either through the herd effect and or vaccination in a matter of months, years? And so I'm not saying that's right either way. I'm just throwing it out there, because where I'm leading up to is today, in fact, San Antonio passed a shelter-in-place measure that basically effectively shuts down all the non-essential businesses for 15 days till 9 April. Here we are, 24 March for 9. It doesn't come off until 9 April. So essentially, I have to have my office closed until 9 April. We'll have staffers that go in there to check on things, once a day or every other day, something like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you think of the businesses that are considered non-essential, they're going to be really, really hurting for a 15-day layoff.
I would love to touch base on that, because one of the more frustrating parts of all this to me is the not having continuity, not only on a state level, but just across the board. So we've been in shelter in place, but Northern California, 6 counties got together and started a handful of days before. And then you saw Riverside County, and so Northern California, the 6 counties did it for 3 weeks. Then a few days later, Riverside County does it, and then they do it to the end of April. And then LA County comes behind right about the same time, within 24 hours before the state announces it. And then they do their policy, which again is a different date. It's like mid-April or something like that. So the problem is you still have people traveling. You have people crossing borders. You have all these kids out on the beach in Florida doing their spring break. It's infuriating. And so you have all these things that are happening, which at the end of the day, I think is just drawing this whole situation out far more than it needs to. I think if you just took the hit on a state or country level and just said, shut down 2-3 weeks, and this is going to hurt, but you just rip the Band-Aid off and do it over with, then rather than every county or every jurisdiction doing something different, and then it's just this domino effect that draws out for 2 or 3 months. I think there just needs to be a better continuity, and rather than everybody just kind of doing their own little thing right now, and it's just I think it's going to cause this thing to be much longer than it needs to be.
It's back to that old argument of the states' rights, the local municipality rights. I mean, that's where we end up in our political world. And, there's no one way to answer this correctly because we just don't know. But yeah, I totally get your opinion on that, and I agree with it. Matt, any parting comments as we start to wrap this up?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think part of the problem is there's no consistent plan. Like I would rather be on one side or the other, but it feels like we're kind of straddling the fence right here. And it feels like we're trying to have our cake and eat it too. To me, it's like, let's just shut it down for a month and figure out what the heck's going on, or let's not shut it down and destroy the economy. Because right now it feels like we're getting worse from the coronavirus, and we're destroying the economy at the same time. So we're not winning on either front. And so I feel like that again, it's a leadership issue. Somebody needs to focus on getting us in one corner and saying, hey, this is the plan, and this is what we're going to do, and ride it out. Yeah.
Lisa, any parting comments for the team?
Really, I think just some advice on the vacation rental side of things, because I know that's why you brought me on mostly, was I think everybody's quick to react, and so and it can hurt you. So with cancellations, I know Airbnbs and all that are pushing 100% cancellations, and you move too quickly and you don't think of the repercussions of like all the credit card fees and everything that you've already paid out on, and these reservations that were coming in within days, and you paid credit card fees out on all this revenue that you've taken in that you're now giving back. So not only are you losing revenue, you're bleeding money on things that you're not getting a return on. And so just making sure that when you are trying to be kind and work with these people, don't be hard-nosed, because at the end of the day, they are going to be a return customer. Your business is going to pick back up, but do make sure that those credit card fees and stuff like that, you're recouping those costs, are really important. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is don't be too quick to react, but do also react appropriately to some of the expenses that are going out the door, to make sure that you don't lose your business in all of this, for sure.
Great stuff, Lisa.
Thanks,
Very
Lisa.
much appreciate you coming on. Matt, great job today. Lisa, great job today. Thanks again, gang. This has been the update for the 24th of March. Let's hope it all gets better. So hang in there, guys.